Welcome, everyone, to Vacation Homes 101. I am Jeff Chase, and I am here with my partner, Jeremy Meyer. How you doing, Jeremy?
Good. How about yourself today, Jeff?
I'm awesome. What's the weather like over in Clearwater?
It's actually a great day. It's about 73 degrees, um, and hoping to get outside to the park later with my little one. So,
Awesome. So, Jeremy and I have worked together for a while, and we got together and said, hey, there's got to be a better resource than, or as good a resource as Facebook, where we can get together and talk about the vacation home market, what that looks like for homeowners and property managers. Just a little bit of background, Jeremy. You want to tell them a little bit about your history in vacation homes?
sure. We started our journey back in late 2017. We had purchased a multifamily home as our first home together, my wife and I, and we had a long-term tenant for a year and didn't much care for that. And my wife was smart enough to say, let's try putting it on Airbnb when our first tenant left. And we were so enamored with the results. We've rinsed and repeated that, and now we have a number of properties. Um, Along the way, we were rather discouraged about. We were unable to connect with others that had answers. So as we were trying to scale a little bit, we were discouraged by the fact that it was so difficult to find anybody with definitive answers. So my wife, again, she's definitely the smarter of us two. She started a Facebook group called Airbnb Hosts of Florida, and the goal there was to we were hoping that someone would show up with answers, and we started aggregating answers along the way. And fast forward a couple of I guess it's been 8 or 9 years now, and we're working with the Florida Alliance of Vacation Rentals. Also work pretty closely with Airbnb to try to help educate people, and that dovetails neatly with my profession, which is a real estate agent. So and became a real estate agent simply to work deals for me and my wife. But again, as everything developed, found that we had an aptitude for it, and
So you have a pretty
here
impressive
we are.
member participation on that. What do your numbers look like?
So we have a private group called Airbnb Hosts of Florida, and that's the one my wife and I started. But I am also the Airbnb community leader for the Gulf Coast. So that is the official Airbnb Gulf Coast page on Facebook. They continue to tell us that they're planning to disband that sometime soon. But they've been saying that for about 6 months or so. So they're talking of taking it to their own platform, which will then leave just our private groups up, and they'll take their official ones down. In the local group, I think we're about 4,000 people. That's the one that Airbnb owns. My group is statewide, and I think we're at about 33,000 there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So if anyone is interested in that, you can reach out to Jeremy. His contact details will be below. A little bit about me. I started in the industry in 1995. The matriarch in the Central Florida vacation home industry, Gene Stiles, took a good friend of mine and I, along with a few other people, and brought us over to a vacation home company in the Disney area that was relatively new. We grew to roughly 600 homes, and I loved it. I fell in love with the industry. I grew with the industry. In 2005, I became the director of at that time, it was called the Central Florida Property Managers Association, but we changed the name of it to the Central Florida Vacation Rental Managers Association. And I got involved with all of the hotel associations because at that time, one of the big hoteliers was coming after vacation homes because in 2005, it was still a very new burgeoning industry, and people, it was making a dent and people were afraid that we weren't doing the occupancy taxes and following all the rules and that. So my job was to basically be information to make sure everyone knew that we paid bed taxes and we had to abide by all the similar laws that hotels had to abide by. So that's what I did, and basically I've been in the vacation home industry since then, and I love it. It has changed so dramatically in the last 10 years. It's just bananas.
I'd go so far as to say it's changed dramatically in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Up and down and up and down, and you know, as everybody expands their footprint, everything changes. So.
I don't know if do you guys have a lot of Brazilians on the West Coast?
Not a lot, but I have noticed a tremendous number getting involved in the Orlando market, which is I assume where you're going with that.
Yeah. So when I started, it was all English. England was the place everyone came from, and it was charter flights. So they'd come in, a couple thousand people get off the charter flight, and everything was generic back then. So they rented a 3-bedroom home. That was it. There were no online resources. Man, I feel old.
No amenity build outs. Just
nothing. It was all manual. It was all contracts. We basically said, look, whatever this tour company is, we're going to give you, 100 homes on this date, and people checked in. They had no idea of anything. 2018, I'm sorry, not 2018, 2008, I flew to Brazil because the governor at the time had named 5 countries that were on the visa waiver program, or that were going to get visa waiver program, and Brazil was one of them. It ended up never happening, but when I went to Brazil, they had no clue what a vacation home was. None at all. Today, Brazilians probably own 15-20% of the market here.
Yeah, and continue to show up and buy. I've had a couple bought listings for me and whatnot.
So I did some homework for this video, and let me pull up some numbers. So everything that we're going to provide is, we want to give factual information. So we went to DBPR and went to their licensing information, and I was able to aggregate the number of vacation homes in each of our markets. And I can't really speak to how many vacation homes were in the West Coast, 5-10 years ago. But for example, in the Orlando market, the Vacation Rental Managers Association did a study back in 2005-06, and there were 25,000 vacation homes in the market around Disney World at that time. Today, according to the state, there's 41,000 vacation homes. That's 20,601 in Orange County and 20,937 in Osceola County. And yes, folks, you can do a vacation home in Orange County. Do you have the West Coast numbers, Jeremy?
I do. Looks like from Tampa to Sarasota, that encompasses St. Pete, Clearwater, Anna Maria, Longboat. We've got approximately 30,000 listings, 9,000 in Sarasota, 8,700 in Tampa, 9,500 in St. Pete, approximately 2,000 in Clearwater, and 1,000 in each Anna Maria and Longboat.
Yeah.
So, those barrier islands are definitely premium markets with very high ADRs and, high annual revenues. From a realtor perspective, it's interesting to me to note that, the folks operating out there tend to be interested in owning the home, not interested in turning a profit. Even with those high rates, with such high numbers, they're not making a ton of money because the buy-in is so high. Unless, of course, they bought it back in 2008 when the market crashed, or even previous. There's a lot of people there that have operated for years.
Well, when we were doing the research, I guess it wasn't a surprise, but it was a surprise to me how massive the average daily rate is from the West Coast to Central Florida. Uh, it's
Yeah.
shockingly high. Wrong word. It's high in the West Coast of Florida. Um, but again, the properties are a lot more expensive there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also see, you know, in the Orlando market, maybe you can speak to this, but in the Orlando market, there's much less push to amenitize, and that's done by the either the resort or Disney is the amenity. Whereas, you know, here we have the beaches being a draw, but many of my clients are spending, you know, 100 to 250K just to amenitize the backyard. You know, many putt putt, everything, pickleball courts. Holy cow, where a lot of people are putting in pickleball courts now. Whereas in Orlando, nobody's buying a place to put in a pickleball court. The pickleball court's part of the HOA fee. So
Right. So
it's
the
that
big
what I'm-
change in Orlando is we build purpose built vacation home communities in this market.
yeah,
So what that means is you're checking into a resort, but instead of going up to a hotel room, you're going to a vacation home. But it has all the same resort amenities, spa, you know,
yeah,
room service, even uh, restaurants, all the club amenities, and that's pretty cool. If you ask me, it's pretty cool. The problem with that is that the HOA fees are exorbitant on them. So
yes, they are.
getting those managed is a big deal. But one of the things you mentioned, and I've been saying this from the very beginning, is amenitizing properties. And I don't think it matters what market you're in. You cannot buy a vacation home today and not have it look just knockout
Right.
pictures, furnishings, you know, appliances. It's really got to rocket for you to be successful.
Sadly, IKEA is not cutting it anymore. And I remember when we entered, you know, our first listing, we were young, we were broke. You know, we listed it with off of Facebook Marketplace, and it did great. You know, that's not the case anymore, but it certainly was back then.
I did a study years ago for two properties that were side by side in a resort community. Uh, One of them had its original furnishings, which were probably 10 years old, and the someone next door to it that we managed had an interior decorator come in and just completely redid the entire property. Over a year, exact same everything except for the decor. The property that had the good decor had double the
That does
revenue,
surprise me.
because the ADR was the daily rate was higher. It had more nights booked. It's everything, and it's even more important today.
Agreed.
What do you think of? Let's talk about the future of your market. Do you think the West Coast is saturated? Is it growing? Are homes lifing out? In other words, they're going from vacation home to permanent residence, but then there's new vacation homes replacing those. What's it look like over there?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to try to answer it as comprehensively as I'm able. I think it's been steadily increasing, but this past year we've seen a bunch wash out, and kind of the turnover seems to be the folks that can get on board with the amenities arms race, and this is, you know, local to Tampa and Bradenton, uh, not the barrier islands, but the interior. The folks that get on board with the amenities arms race are continuing to perform well and even performing better than their peers. The folks that bought a home 5 years ago and just have two Costco loungers around the pool are struggling. So, increasingly they're either the folks with the minimalist decor, lack of amenities, they're either falling by the wayside or struggling along with much lower rates because they're not bringing what their neighbors do. So all in all, I think slight increase, but you know this is part of, I think, of a larger conversation about how competition breeds equality to some degree. 6 7 years ago, you could not rent a home in Pinellas or Manatee County that had mini putt putt. It was unheard of. Now, if you're looking to book a home for your family's vacation, you're virtually guaranteed to rent a home with mini putt putt. If you're looking at all in the market. So things are improving. I think it's not. Everybody always talks about the new numbers of units moving to market, but then nobody talks about the number of units that have left the market. So I think it continues to increase, but not to the extreme that everybody talks about.
Do you guys have any pressure from government about licensing, taxes, that sort of thing?
So right now, Manatee County is staying out of it. Uh, Pinellas County has recently enacted, I don't want to say legislature because they're still restricted by the state as far as duration and whatnot goes, but they have enacted some restrictive, they're trying to restrict guest count, irregardless of property space. Of course, that's being litigated. Um, the expectation is they'll probably back down. There's some indication that they might have kind of started to do so already, although that's probably premature. Um, you know, so I think there's always a certain amount of uneasy pressure between short-term rentals and municipalities. Um, it's interesting because they make so much tax money revenue wise that uh, politicians are always trying to please everyone, right? Which doesn't really please anyone. So I think there's some pressure there, but our stance, both on the Airbnb side and the Florida Alliance of Vacation Rentals side, is that we're not anti legislation. We're just anti unfair or illegal rules. So
Right.
pool safety, we're a big fan there. There's lots of things that make sense. Restricting guest count, irrespective of house size or irrespective of Florida law, is something that we're fighting in Pinellas.
Well, I'm sure, heard about the parties that we had. I don't think as much anymore, but closer to COVID, where 100 people would show up at a house, and it was crazy. But I'll tell you, you mentioned taxes, and it all comes down to money in many cases. So in Osceola County, which is where Disney World is, or primarily where Disney World is, um, the vacation home tax base is 50% of their taxes. 50%.
Yeah,
So Osceola County will do whatever they can to make sure that our industry stays healthy. I mentioned the big house parties. The Osceola County Sheriff created a task force that got with the local vacation rental management uh, industry and said,
that's
hey,
great.
what can we do to help fix this? And now there's a process in place to make sure that those big parties don't happen anymore.
That's
But
fantastic.
we're
It
safe.
starts with the operators.
Yeah, we're safe in Orlando and Osceola County. We're a tourism because of Disney World destination, and that tax base is huge.
For sure. I don't know the numbers for Pinellas or Manatee, but uh, or Hillsborough for that matter, but I know they're significant.
Right. Well, look, I think we're going to wrap it up on that for this episode. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being with us. You're going to be here every week now, correct?
Sure. Yes, sir. We're excited about it.
All right. Awesome.
Try to bring a little more levity to future episodes, but we're getting the hang of this and excited to interact with folks in this format as opposed to what we've been doing. So
yes,
thanks
be
for
patient
putting it
with
together.
us. Please be patient with us.
We need it. We need it.
So this will keep going on. Look, if you make it to this video, put some questions down in the bottom. We're going to use your questions to set up our episodes as they come out. We want to tackle the tough subjects and the fun subjects. We'll probably have guests come on from time to time. So we're quite excited. Any last words, Jeremy?
Nope. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, and look forward to interaction from the public. Let's see what we can put together. I'm excited.
Thank you, everyone. Make your vacation home a great one. Have a good week.
Take care.
Hello, welcome to Vacation Homes 101.